everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel. For those of you who don't know, I love talking about books, all things related to books and about books. And today I am sharing with you my second video in my Black History Month celebration series around, you guessed it, Black literature, because, I'm Black, y'all. And I like to talk about Black books and celebrate Black authors and the stories that they have contributed to our world. So, as I said, this is my second video. My first video was centered around adult fiction, and it talked about the generational curse in Black literature. If you don't know what the generational curse is, you have to go and watch that video if you haven't done so already and check it out. So I will definitely leave that in the show notes below for you so you can do so after you watch this. Today's video is not focusing on adult fiction. Today's video is focusing on children. And it's a really important space to me, children are. And so I'm really excited to bring this content and what I've been thinking about and the research that I've actually done around this topic to you guys. So we're going to get some information, did research, put work into it. So here we go. I have a lot of information to get through, and so I have my notes. I'm coming prepared, y'all. So I'm just going to jump into it. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can stay connected and we can, yes, stay connected. Yes, exactly. That's what I want to say. Okay, so let me get into my mode here so that we can talk about Black children and representation in children's literature. All right, so I want to ask you a question. I want to see if you know the percentage of African American children that were represented in children's literature around 2013. Okay, so it's about over 10 years ago. What percentage did you think? Do you think that was? All right, so if you could put it in the comments section below, I will access it. I will find it. But the answer is 2.9%. 2.9%, you guys. When I found this number out, when I discovered this, I was absolutely floored because 2013 was not that long ago. My second child, my number 2 was born a year before, but it made sense as to my experience as a mother during that time. 2.9%. That is staggering. Okay, so that number came to us by the Cooperative Children's Book Center. They track representation across literature, and so that's where that stat is pulled from. All right, so 2.9% is a starking number because we live in a country where more than half of the children in K through 12, more than half of that population are Black and brown children. And so when we kind of look at the number of children and we compare it to the percentage of representation, it's not good. It's not good, you guys. It's not good. We know that representation is highly important. We know that stories shape imagination, shapes belonging, but it also shapes what people feel, what children feel are possible for their futures. And so today we're going to be talking about data. We're going to be talking about the history in children's literature as it relates to representation for African American children. We're going to be talking about the explosion that happened in children's literature around representation. And we're also going to be touching upon some backsliding that's been happening as well. So those are all the things. Like I said, I have notes because I want to make sure that, telling y'all what I've thought about. So I might look down, but just bear with me as we go along with this. So why does this topic matter to me? Well, I work in children's publishing, and in that space, I'm able to have an at the seat kind of view into the world of publishing and children. And so it's part of my day in and day out job, just being in that space. But another reason that's a little closer to home, that just hits right and center, is I am a mother of 3 girls. Now, my oldest is 18 and off to college, and my 2 little ones, I call them my little ones, you guys, but they're teenagers, but they'll probably always be my 2 little ones. They're older, but I have such vivid memories of walking into bookstores and looking at shelves and struggling to find stories where it was just Black children doing normal everyday things. Normal things that we do every day: chase a rainbow, stomp in a puzzle, go on a mystery, try to ride a bike, have a crush, look at flowers in a meadow, bake alongside mom just because, for no special reason. Just everyday stories. And it was so difficult to find. And I remember feeling so frustrated and also feeling very overlooked, unseen, and devalued in a way. I remember struggling with that. And so that first statistic that I shared with you, that 2.9%, that was in 2013. It hit me because it brought me back to that memory, to feeling like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's why. That's why. 2.9%. Like I said, in 2013, my first child was already born, was around 4 years old or 3 years old, and my second one was a year old. And it was hard. So those are the reasons why, this topic felt so important to me. And I think it is such an important topic, no matter if you are a parent or not. We are all responsible for the next generation, and we're all responsible for doing our part to make it better. And so that's what I want to talk about today. All right. So I want to start by just stating the obvious, that the numbers are not accidental, right? We understand that we don't have great representation, and we also understand that there is intention and habit around that. And that's because publishing follows just the trends that are trending, I think, in just what we would say everyday life or life outside. So the whiteness of children's literature is deeply tied to the history of the United States. From post-Reconstruction all the way through World War II, pretty much children's books were written by white people and for white people and centered whiteness. That's pretty much what you got. And when Black characters did appear, they were often reduced to just awful stereotypes, servants, or moral lessons that were filtered through a white paternalistic lens. But there were some bright spots, and I want to highlight some of those bright spots. Jessie Redmond Fausett, who is a just beautiful writer and was a beautiful human being, she edited the Brownies books. It was a magazine created to show Black children in joyful, loving, radiant ways. But efforts like like the Brownies books, were often rare and also very fragile. It took a lot for these types of efforts to survive because of funding, economic funding and support, and just reach, right? The people that it was able to reach and sustain the work. And let's just say that the industry in and of itself didn't see it as valuable, right? Mainstream industry, and did not prioritize or really come along to help make sure that this was something that was able not only to survive, but to thrive. So I want to talk about the Cooperative Children's Book Center, the one that I mentioned before, where I got the 2.9% data. And I want you to know that they didn't start tracking representation in books until 1985. And when they did, the findings were very stark. So out of roughly 2,500 books published that year, and the year I'm talking about now is 1985, only 18 books out of 2,500 books, you guys, were created by African Americans. 18. And that's out of all the books. I'm not talking just children's books, all the books. 18. For decades after that, the numbers barely changed. But something happened in 2014. Something shifted. The hashtag We Need Diverse Books gained traction after there was an all-white, all-male author lineup at a major book event. And what followed was a moment that was driven by parents, educators, creators, and advocates demanding change within the space. And for the first time in a long time, change happened, and the data reflected that. So by 2019, right, books with Black main characters shot up and made up about 12% of the titles that were received by the CCBC. And by 2020, a year later, the number of books by or about people of color had tripled compared to 5 years earlier. And by 2023, nearly 49% of the titles received had significant BIPOC content. So real progress was made and it deserves to be acknowledged. So I'm acknowledging it. Yes, I am. But I don't want us to just, stay on the progress, because we can miss some complicated things that I don't want us to miss. In 2022, books by white creators still made up 71% of submissions, while books by at least one Black creator accounted for just 13%. So what I want to point out here is that while we did see a huge rise and change and shift towards positivity, a positive shift towards more representation by Black authors, we did not see a same shift within the publishing industry, how it works, who was sitting at the table, who was making the decisions. That shift we did not see. And that, you guys, is a problem. Early 2024 numbers show some recovery in Black books and in publishing, but the staying power is concerning. It suggests that for some publishers, diversity was a trend. We know that for some of them, rather than a commitment. Just like we're seeing in businesses all around the United States right now, we're seeing, and it's really showing, those businesses that did Black Lives Matter as a trend and just wear that hashtag out, versus those who actually believe it and it is part of their values and are walking the walk. So the fear of backsliding in many creators is real. For many authors and illustrators and editors, all of the hands that touch the work is a real thing, and it's something that they are having to contend with. Now, part of the reason why this gap persists lies within the industry itself. Publishing remains overwhelmingly white. To this day, in 2026, publishing is a predominantly white space, and a predominantly white woman space too. A 2023 survey led by Lee and Low Books found that over 72% of publishing professionals are white. 72%, while just 5.3% are Black. When the people acquiring, editing, marketing, distributing books largely share the same background, well, their assumptions quietly become the industry norms. Whose lives feel more universal? Whose voices feel more marketable? All of this kind of, is impacted by that. I want to be clear about something. This is not always about overt bias, not at all. I often think it's about comfort, habit, and inherited norms, but the impact is still the same. It doesn't matter if it's coming overtly or not. The impact is still the same. Creators of color are often boxed into writing about trauma or history, while white authors are able to write about everything and anything, and also about very individual stories as well. And layered onto this reality is a growing backlash. Book bans. I was going to go there, right? Because I have to talk about book bans when I'm talking about this topic. So I know you know that book bans have surged. During the 2023 to 2024 school year, PEN America documented that more than 10,000 instances of book bans happened. And guess what? The most frequently targeted titles featured, you guessed it, characters of color and African American authors, along with the LGBTQ2+ community, and honest, or I would also say accurate, accounts of history. Now, these challenges are sending messages about whose stories are acceptable and whose stories are not. And not just us, not just adults, but children as well. When they walk into bookstores, when they are in their school libraries and they don't see themselves represented, it is translating a message. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit here, because conversations about representation often focus on the children that are not being represented. And that's exactly what the first part of my video did. And rightly so, right? Rightly so. Children deserve mirrors. Books reflect lives back, right? When we read them, when we see images, when we read about people that are like us or in similar situations, it reflects back our lives to us. And that is so important. But representation is just as essential for white children as well. Dr. Radine Sims Bishop describes books as mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. When white children grow up surrounded by only mirrors, they are given a dangerously narrow view of the world. They are taught subtly but consistently that their experience is the experience. It is the standard by default. Without windows into other lives, empathy shrinks, curiosity narrows, and imagination, well, it's just limited, right? A bookshelf filled only with white faces does not prepare children for the real world. It doesn't help them become a better neighbor, a better friend, or even a responsible citizen. in a diverse society. It's a real problem. So diverse books aren't just for minority children. Diverse books are for all children. All children need them. They stretch understanding. They build empathy long before a child has language for it. I do want to acknowledge that progress has been made, and I'm proud of the work that my company is doing, for example, which isn't perfect work, but it is work that is moving forward, even in a moment when many institutions are pulling back and being quiet, right? Or avoiding hard conversations and hard choices around diversity and representation. Before I go, I want to talk to you about one thing that's really, really important about this topic and just about publishing as a whole. Black-owned bookstores have been holding this work down for a long time. They have stood in the gap, and it is so important. They curate thoughtful, joyful collections for all ages. They champion authors. They create spaces where representation is not just, for 28 days on a calendar or just in a certain section of a bookstore, if you know what I mean. For them, representation is the norm. That labor has been essential, and it deserves real acknowledgement and real praise. But it also is important, you guys, and I need to say this, it is also important, especially for writers, to know that Black books cannot just stay in Black-owned bookstores. It just cannot. For authors, being stocked in mainstream bookstores and public libraries is essential, and it isn't just about pride or visibility. It directly affects whether or not a work is considered successful in the eyes of the publishing industry. Sales through major retailers are what get tracked the most closely. Those numbers shape everything. They shape how many copies are printed. They shape whether an author gets another contract. They shape whether or not an author is invited to do an interview that has a wide reach. They shape what kinds of stories are seen as workable in the marketplace. So when a book shows up in a niche space, even in a beloved niche space, you guys, it often does not show up in the data that publishers rely on to make decisions. And that means that the industry can look at numbers and tell itself a story that simply isn't true, and it happens all the time. Public libraries matters for similar reasons. Libraries introduce books to readers who aren't actively searching for them, right? They're just out, they're just browsing. Kids stumble across stories that they never would have known about. Teachers discover new authors. Families borrow books they might not have ever thought to borrow or let alone to buy. Libraries help people decide what becomes familiar. They help us to know what is normal, what belongs. So while Black-owned bookstores are cultural anchors and absolutely should be supported, it is just as critical that books by and about Black children are carried everywhere children go and children can read. Everywhere there are books, they need to be front and center too. That is what I'm passionate about, and that is a goal. And so that means those books need to be in mainstream bookstores, front and center, faced out, right at the front, in public libraries, in also school libraries as well, everywhere on all the shelves where a child can find themselves by accident. That's how stories will move from the margins to the middle, not just through passion, but through visibility, access, and staying power. And you can be a part of that, right? You can be a part of that. You can be a part of that by requesting literature that is diverse at your local library and also in mainstream bookstores. Go in and ask them if they have a title. Every time you request something, it's recorded data when they have to search for it. And so that's really important, and that's something that can happen. Okay. All right, you guys, I've been talking for a minute now. I love sharing this with you guys, but I know that it is time to wrap up. So if you have liked this video, if you have found it helpful, do please like the video. And also, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to this channel so that we can stay connected and you can help this channel grow. Also, you guys, I'm on Substack. I'm loving my Substack space and the community that I'm building over there. So if you would like to just get into more deeper conversations and have more, topics about books and literature, consider joining me there. I will leave my link for that in the show notes below. And like I said in the beginning, this is the second video in my Black History Month celebration. My third video is coming out next week, and it will be all about the biggest and latest trends that are happening in Black literature. We're focusing back on adults for that one, so I don't want you to miss that. So again, subscribe so you can get it when it drops. Whew, this has been so much fun. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I hope that you have gotten something out of this. Please let me know in the show, in the comment section below, like, how was it if you are a person of color? Like, how easy or hard was it for you to find books that represented you or your children, throughout the years? What changes have you seen? What makes you hopeful? What is still hard? I would like to know about that below. And if you are not a person of color watching this video, one, shout out to you. Thank you so much. And because this video is for everybody, it is for everybody. And I want to know for you, what do your children's books shelves look like? If you are currently a parent with a little one, what are they looking like? If you have to think back to, like, what was it looking like if your children are older? I would love for you to describe that in the show notes below. Let's help each other. Let's learn. Let's grow. Let's advocate for what's right. You guys, in the meantime, between I see you next week, you guys know what to do. Stay safe and stay reading.